Welcome to the local campaign here on Rogers TV. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and, of course, the time of all of our candidates here today. As we get closer and closer to October 24th Election Day, we turn our attention to municipal debates. And today's debate is Ward 9, Knoxdale-Merivale. And before I introduce you to our candidates, I'll go over the format for everybody at home and, of course, for our candidates here in studio. We're going to start with the opening statement. Each candidate will have an opportunity for a 60-second opening statement. The order of that was chosen at random just a few moments ago. Following that, we go into our debate portion of the show. I will ask a candidate a question. They will have 45 seconds on their own to answer the question, and then I will open it up to the floor. And again, I encourage all candidates to jump in. I'll be there, of course, to police the time to make sure everybody has equal opportunity. At the end of that debate, I will go back to the person for whom I originally asked the question. They will have 30 seconds to wrap up. So we'll go through that, talking about some of the topics, of course, that are important to the residents in the ward and, of course, to residents right across the city of Ottawa. At the end of that, we'll have our closing statements. Again, each guest and candidate will have 60 seconds for their closing statement, and we'll do that in reverse order. So let's meet our candidates. For Knoxdale-Merivale Ward 9, we start with Michael Wood. James Dean.
Nice to meet you.
Peter Anthony Weber.
Nice to meet you.
Peter Westaway.
Nice to meet you.
Joseph Benami. Sorry, I lost my thought. I lost my number here. Sean Devine. And Myles Egli.
Nice to meet you.
Well, there was a first for me. What a promising start we have here. Let's go to our opening statements here. 60 seconds. Michael, we start with you.
My name's Michael Wood, and over the past several weeks, I've had the pleasure of meeting many of you at your doors discussing issues. I grew up in Knoxdale-Merivale, and home is always where the heart is. Over the past 2.5 years, I was able to provide people, small business owners, a voice with the federal, provincial, and municipal governments. I brought hundreds of small business owners and people looking for assistance and resources before government officials. I've done this in a very nonpartisan way, which is what I plan to bring to City Hall, nonpartisan politics. The reason I've decided to run for City Council is because if COVID gave me anything positive, it was a passion to help people. And that's the only reason why I chose to run, was to help people and give you a voice at Ottawa City Hall.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Over to you, James. You have 60 seconds.
My name is James Dean. I'm running for City Council in Knoxdale-Merivale. One thing, I grew up in the neighborhood. I went to St. Gregory's, Frank Ryan, Merivale High School. I took business out of Algonquin College. I continue to live in the neighborhood. I'm a local real estate agent. For the last 17 years, I've been managing on a volunteer basis Quality Living Housing Cooperative. A cooperative is a corporation where essentially the people that live there are the owners. The co-op has paid off their mortgage, done all kinds of infrastructure projects, right from roads to roofs and everything in between, debt-free with money in the bank. This is the skill set that I would like to bring to City Hall: fiscal responsibility and keeping your taxes as low as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Over to Peter Anthony Weber.
My name is Peter Weber. I'm running for Ward 9 as a councillor. I want real change for the ward and for the city. I'd like to privatize OC Transport. I would also like to build a lot more houses, a lot more. Also, I like to put in some speed bumps, slow down traffic in the ward, and lower taxes throughout. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter Westaway, you have 60 seconds.
We are all so fortunate to be able to call Ottawa home, and not just us middle-aged white men. We all live in a great city in an even greater country. It is exciting for Ottawa that we will soon have big changes in City Council, and I'm proposing much bigger and even more exciting changes to our city landscape. Half of my Ward 9 is in the Ottawa Greenbelt, and much of that is being used to grow large commercial corn crops inside of our city. This Greenbelt of ours was much too small in scope and vision, and instead of containing urban sprawl as it was created to do, it has created vast and unnecessary sprawl. I have a clear vision on how to change our Greenbelt into something that will put Ottawa on the map as one of the truly great cities of the world. where we belong. Check out peterwestaway.ca and see all my great plans for our ward and our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Joseph Benamy, over to you for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Derek. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't need this job. I'm running because, like so many of you, I'm tired of the melodrama at City Hall and the ongoing mismanagement of our city's business. As councillors have spent hand over fist on mega legacy projects, our roads and sidewalks go unrepaired, critical infrastructure continues to deteriorate, and
Take a moment, Joseph. That's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, critical infrastructure continues to deteriorate, and our essential services are either ignored or they're cut back. Ladies and gentlemen, this...
It's all right. Everybody gets nervous, Joseph. Do you want
And
to
I don't.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to have to start again. I don't have enough time to do it, so...
Okay, well, you'll have time to share some of your opinions during the debate portion.
Yeah, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen.
That's okay, Joseph. No problem. It happens. Sean Devine, I found your name this time. Sean, you have 60 seconds here.
Hi, my name's Sean Devine, and I'm running to be your next city councillor for Ward 9. I live in the ward in Trent-Darlington with my wife and our 4 kids. I have a proven record as a leader in my community. I was as the president of the Trent-Darlington Community Association when a tornado hit my neighborhood in 2018. I helped lead the local recovery effort. It was the most rewarding work I've ever done, working side by side with neighbors as we put our community back together. I'm running to be your councillor because I love our city, but there's a lot of work to be done. It's time we build houses based on the needs of families, not developers. It's time we built a world-class transit system that's reliable and affordable. As your councillor, I'll stand up for you and all communities to tackle our common problems, whether it's fighting for greater accountability at City Hall or making sure that our streets are safer from speeding cars. I will be a councillor that you can count on.
Thank you very much, Sean. And lastly, we have Myles Egli. You have 60 seconds, Myles.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Myles Egli, and I'm running to become your next city councillor for Ward 9. For those of you wondering, my brother is the sitting councillor right now. I've lived in the ward for 30 years. I've raised my 2 sons in the community. I was the president of the Knoxdale-Merivale Community Association for the last 9 years, and I've been a member of the Knoxdale-Merivale Council, which is the association which governs all the community associations in the ward. I quit my job on June 30th so that I could dedicate myself to the longest job interview of my life. I will be knocking on the doors for 4 months so I can get to know you and find out what your concerns are. I plan to introduce myself to you and what my priorities are. I have 5 pillars in my platform: affordable housing, emergency preparedness, environment, intensification, and public transit. I am part of this community, and this community is part of me.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks to all of you. Really appreciate it. We'll move on to the debate portion. I'll start with you, Michael. As I said, you'll have 45 seconds to open this up. Some of the candidates have already touched on this, and that is road safety around schools, speeding. I'm hearing of aggressive driving in neighborhoods. This is one of the main things that we hear in this particular ward from residents. What can we do to help keep residents safe in their communities? Michael, you have 45 seconds to begin.
Thank you very much, Derek, for your question. And it's one of the things that's coming up quite often when I'm knocking on doors. I was out on Medhurst the other day, and they were talking about the speed of the cars going through. If we look at Woodruff and going down towards past Slack, there's a discussion to lower the speed. Now, of course, there's the radar machines up that are telling people how fast they're going. I don't think they're effective. I think we have to look at the residential streets as well too that are being sped on. So whether we take a look at cameras and photo radar cameras, if we take a look at putting in temporary speed reducing structures on the road, something has to be done because everybody in our community, children included, have to feel safe.
Thank you, Michael. I open it up. Feel free to jump in, gentlemen.
We know we need more speed bumps, not so much cameras. Cameras are going to tax everyone. We don't need more taxes. We got to make this city a lot more affordable.
So Mike is right when he mentions that he's hearing a lot about speeding at the doors, because frankly, that is one of the most common issues I'm hearing at the doors, speeding. And I do think that a lot of politicians take a rather casual attitude to this, but I don't. Because when I hear someone at the doors tell me that they're worried about speeding on their streets, I know that what they're really saying is that they're worried that they or someone they love, quite likely their kids, is going to get hit by a car, which is every parent's nightmare. Now, I have 4 kids. I live on a street with a curve. I take this issue very seriously. But it's an issue that can be addressed. If elected, what I want to do is a comprehensive review of all of the high-risk speeding areas in our neighborhood and make sure that there is proper...
Just for traffic coming to say we're narrowing all this from Woodruff, Greenbank Road. We need, like, go down the Parkway, we need to put up 4 lanes so all the traffic can go down down the Parkway instead of down all the streets.
I have several plans also. One of which is getting our community associations more involved, giving them more authority. Many community associations right now have problems with volunteers. If we gave them more authority, more people would get involved. Some different ideas I'm hearing. Many people are for the automated speeding cameras around school zones, as well as for red lights.
That's more of a revenue source than anything else. It's not helping out traffic.
This is an extremely important issue for our neighborhood, and it will be one of the top issues. Whoever gets elected, we will work on this as a community.
So if I could interject, we're always hearing about evidence-based policy making. My question to my fellow candidates is, does anybody know actually what the statistics are in terms of speeding, in terms of traffic violations, in terms of collisions, in terms of actual people who've actually been hit?
I do, as a matter of fact.
So the question is, whether or not, it's very easy for us to propose a lot of these capital projects, but I'm wondering whether or not they're actually all needed. I'm not dismissing the concern of residents, but I'm asking whether or not the concern actually matches up with the data. And that's something that we have to be very cautious about, is we're going to have a lot of complaints as councillors, and we're going to have a lot of concerns that have to be addressed, but we also have to be careful to ensure that whatever we're doing is consistent with the evidence that actually is out there.
So Sean, I'll let you, I just want to make sure that Peter and Myles get in here, and then we'll come back to you with the numbers. Go ahead, Peter.
Yes, thank you. What we're missing is traffic enforcement. That's simply the issue. I drove taxi in the city for 20 years. It's rare that any vehicle is getting pulled over. They should be pulling cars over if they got burnt out headlights. They should be checking the papers. There should just be a much increase. I'm not into defunding the police, but I'm into getting them to be more accountable, getting them to have more visibility with speed stops. There's way more aggressive drivers now, aggressive lane changes, all kinds of stuff that if they just, if the police aren't going to do it, I'm okay with the cameras. But I'd rather the police just increase.
We need more police.
Increase.
We need more police. We also merge the transit cops into the regular police force.
I don't think we need more police. We certainly shouldn't be hiring specifically
I'm
women.
going to get Myles in here. Go ahead, Myles.
And there should just be more enforcement. Thank you.
Go ahead.
We need more traffic calming measures. They put some down on Knoxdale Road right now. Part of the problem is with the speeders is the width of the road. They seem to think they can go faster because of the width of the road. We have to narrow down the road by putting traffic calming measures in. Speed bumps are not the solution because they don't work for emergency vehicles.
Myles.
Everyone wants speed bumps, not those crazy
Speed bumps do
signs
not
on the
work
road.
for emergency vehicles. They damage emergency
Joseph,
vehicles.
you asked for some numbers, and Sean said he had some. So Sean, let's
go ahead.
see the numbers here.
Thank you, Derek. So I appreciate your question about database decision making, and you're asking for some numbers. There's a very tangible difference in what happens when cars collide with a person at 40 kilometers an hour as opposed to when they collide with a person at 30 kilometers per hour. That 10-kilometer difference makes a huge difference in whether or not the person is going to survive that collision. There are neighborhoods in Ottawa that have adopted 30-kilometer-per-hour speed zones, and that's not a capital investment. That's just changing the habits of drivers. And I know that there are a lot of neighborhoods that have adopted that, and that's something that I would like to consult with communities to see if they'd be willing to drop 10 kilometers an hour to save their kids' lives.
No.
Yes, but Sean, that's not data. That's an interesting solution, but that's not the statistics,
It's fact.
okay?
That won't
So-
save anything.
And,
So what I'm
and I live
proposing
on,
is getting community centers more involved, have the community come up with the solutions. Some people say more stop signs, some say elevated crosswalks, some say automated traffic cameras for speeding. We need our community to be involved in the decision-making process. It's more likely to be successful if we get the entire community involved. One thing people
the
are complaining
community wants
about
more sidewalks,
are the
more speed
pylons.
bumps.
The pylons in the middle of the road are making it extremely difficult and dangerous for people who are walking and people who are on bicycles. The whole plan between putting these pylons in the city with the speed limits are to give obstacles to slow people down. What it is, it's making much more dangerous for people on bicycles. So we need to find another solution.
Go ahead, Joseph,
I'm
and then I'll come to Michael here.
I'm actually with Peter on this, okay? I live on the corner of Bertone and Knoxdale. And I'm telling you, driving up and down Knoxdale, since they put those posts up, is a pain in the butt.
It's a pain in the butt, but it slows down traffic.
But hang on just a
They're
second,
dangerous.
okay?
They're not
but
dangerous.
But the point is, that
we leave them all year round and during
Just-
winter time. They're
But if I could,
dangerous.
They
but if
won't
I
be
could-
there in the winter
Well,
time.
they can't be
But
there.
if I could,
I'm going to
Have
stop
no
you there.
year
Hold
round.
on. I'm going to stop you there because Michael hasn't had a chance after the opening, so I'm going to give him just a little extra time here, including your 30 here, Michael.
Thank you, Derek. So just to touch on this, a couple things. When I was out walking around with the residents of Merivale Gardens, there is that speed radar machine. I don't work for the city, and so I'm not sure if this is true or not, but allegedly you can download the data from those radar speed signs. So if we're going to do this, and Sean, I agree that you need the data to make it happen. If we can pull the data from that, that is going to help. I also understand the idea of slowing the streets down. There are some that are 30 kilometers an hour. My only thing is, with all due respect, I'm just not sure how many people are going to abide by
that's
the new
time,
speed
Michael.
limit.
Sorry, that's time, everybody, on that topic. We move on to the next topic. I start with you, James. You'll have 45 seconds to open. Let's talk housing. They say there's a crisis in this city. The lack of affordable housing, and most people are now particularly looking at the lack of affordable rental housing. What are some of the solutions to get some of that affordable housing here in the city? You have 45 seconds, James.
Well, as a manager of a housing cooperative for the last 17 years, being on the board of directors, I have a very unique perspective into that. Cooperative housing is a solution which could allot a lot of affordable housing. One option is for the city to lease land, build a co-op there, and have the people that live there are the owners of the co-op. They'll manage it, they'll maintain it. Other ideas I have, currently on the MLS, there are over 260 homes that are available for rent right now. Instead of putting people into neighborhoods that are social housing, why don't we give them a subsidized rent? So if the rent is $2,500 a month, give families that need it a $1,000 discount per month.
Thank you,
We'll
James.
save all
Thank you
kinds of
for
money.
opening. It's open for discussion
There's
now.
only so many tax dollars to go around to afford subsidized rent. Maybe we can take the revenue from the fines from red light cameras and speed cameras and put a percentage towards affordable housing.
Okay, let's not do that. Let's talk about housing.
That's funding.
Yeah.
That's funding for that. That's
Yeah,
in the
we're
millions of
not going to
dollars.
go back and talk about traffic cameras again. What we're talking about here is a real emergency in the city of Ottawa, which is not only a lack of housing, but a lack of affordable housing. And right now, on a daily
What do you
basis,
call by affordable?
Peter, do
How
you
many-
mind?
How many dollars?
Just
What do
let
you
him
call?
finish here. Go
Peter,
ahead.
do you mind?
Yes, they do.
On a daily basis, there are 2,000 people sleeping on the streets or in shelters, and there's a great need for many more. And right now, what the City of Ottawa is doing, their solution, is because we don't have enough affordable housing units, the city is housing people in cheap motels at great expense because we simply don't have the means to take care of them. We've declared a housing emergency in the city, so let's act like we're in an emergency. Because what we require right now is we need to commit more resources to address this.
Thank you, Sean. I'm going to cut you off there. Go ahead, Joseph.
Sean, when you talk about affordable housing, are you talking about social housing or are you talking about the price of housing in general?
I'm talking about community housing. I'm talking about
Okay.
affordable housing.
So let's talk about that for a second. Taxpayers are already the largest landlord in this city. We own 22,500 units, and we subsidize residency in another 3,500 units that we don't currently own. We have almost 50,000 people in social housing already, and we have a waiting list of 10,000 households, which could represent another 20,000 people. 70,000 people is 7% of our population, despite the fact that Statistics Canada tells us that less than 2% of the population of Ottawa have a lower income than the low income cutoff, which is higher than the poverty rate.
Okay,
we
Myles,
don't have,
and Peter-
just to conclude,
Michael-
Derek, okay,
Sure,
excuse
sure,
me.
go ahead.
We don't have a lack of social housing. We have a problem with managing the social housing
Okay.
that we have.
What do you
Let's
call
leave it there.
affordable housing? What price are we putting? $1,500 a month is now for a single bedroom house.
Yeah.
All but $2,000 for a two bedroom apartment. What do you call it?
Miles,
What
go
is
ahead.
that number you're going for?
I would push for all new developments to have a certain percentage of their rentals allocated to affordable housing.
What number are you looking at?
I'm
What's
looking
the
at a
dollar
minimum of 20% of all
figure?
new
What is the
development.
dollar number? Is it $1,500 a month? Is it $2,000?
Well,
What's the number?
we have to define what,
Affordable is-
first off, we have to define what affordable housing is. The
Well,
federal
don't you know
government,
by now what it is?
No, the federal government, provincial government, and city all seem to have different terminology of rent to income and affordable housing.
Look,
We have to
housing-
clarify
what's the
the
number?
terms first.
Look, people, the housing market is just as susceptible to market forces as any other sector of our economy. The fact is that if you want to have cheaper housing, which I totally am in favor of, I want younger families and lower income people to be able to afford to buy and rent their own houses. But to do that, you have to build more houses. And
Okay,
what we
Joseph,
can do as a city
Peter
is we have to
Westaway,
reduce.
let's get you in here, please.
Yes, please, thank you. I've already made reference to my solution, and it's not a popular one. And it doesn't involve city land, it involves the green belt. It's federal land, it's public land, it's our land. What I have against is the cornfields, as I've said. There's huge possibilities in building housing there. I know traditional housing will never go there. What I'm proposing is we have a competition to build eco-cities. It would be much more exciting than just growing farmland that feeds cattle out in the country. We have a huge opportunity. I know it'd be difficult. I know very well the city doesn't have control, but it is public land. It's our land. Half of my ward is farm field.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Michael, go ahead.
So quickly, before we continue forth, we're all here to be better for this city. We can't be yelling and screaming at each other. I know it's a debate, but everybody's entitled to their opinions. And so the scenario being is, Sean, I agree, we have to figure out this housing crisis in this city, whatever it's going to look like. Now, again, whoever gets into City Hall out of all of us, I think we need to go in, look at the numbers, and try and figure out how to help as many people as possible. That's going to be our role. Sean, you're right. The homelessness in this city and the people that can't afford to have a roof over their head, it has to be addressed, whatever that's going to look like. And how we're going to do it is going to depend on all of us, one of us, going to the City Hall to finance and to infrastructure and figuring out what is the most efficient way to help as many people in our community as possible.
Michael, don't you understand that the primary cause of this is city policy?
No.
We
The
want to,
primary
we
cause
want
of
to,
Trying
this-
to
we,
contain growth.
we
We
want
need to
to,
expand like anything else.
We
Look,
need to
I just
eliminate-
came from the LRT development. It's made out in the middle of farmland. There's a proposal to put 10,000 houses out that way. Where are they? It's going to take 2 years to get the houses built. You still got to put the sewer and water in. Then you start building houses. You still need a lot more roads, but we still put this huge transit system in the middle of nowhere.
Ladies
We'll
and
talk
gentlemen,
transit. Peter Anthony, we'll talk transit in a moment. Sean, go, and then I'll try to get to you here.
there
Joseph.
is a lack of affordable housing supply. Now, I agree with what Myles was saying earlier, that when it comes to developers making new projects, we have to put greater demands on them for affordable housing units. That's called an N2, that's called inclusionary zoning. Developers are going to fight back against it because they're not going to make as many profits. But my concern is not developer profits, it's addressing a dire emergency in our city, and I think we need higher percentages than what this current city council has allowed. And I'm also going to say that when it comes to developers, I think that I am the only candidate up here who has a stated policy of not accepting developer donations in their campaigns, and I think I'm doing that because that puts me in a position to negotiate
Okay,
as
thank you, Sean.
rigorously as I can with
Joseph,
developers.
Joseph, go ahead.
yeah, you know, I have to tell you, Sean, with all due respect, I don't know about the rest of the people here, but I'm offended when people come to me and talk to me about taking donations from developers, okay?
Right.
Because, and I'll tell you why, because that position is premised on the notion that somehow or other I'm going
Okay,
to be
sorry,
bribed.
that's time, gentlemen. Thank you very much. James, over to you. You have 30 seconds to wrap.
So a lot of people here are complaining about the situation. Very few have plans how to attack it. Co-ops are a great option. Subsidizing houses in the neighborhoods, it's keeping people out of these low-income neighborhoods where often poverty ends up having a second generation of poverty. If we can get people into the neighborhoods, subsidize the rent. We have lots of empty office buildings that could be converted, and we also have a lot of empty schools right now that can be converted to seniors' homes. We're going to have an issue in a few years for seniors. Let's start developing now and be proactive.
Thank you, James. All right, let's move on to the next topic. This will be for Peter Anthony. You already brought it up, so let's talk transit. We went from an award-winning transit system, bus system, to an LRT that that isn't doing well, to put it mildly. And you know, a lot of the focus on the LRT, but there's also a bus system that is suffering. We're getting lots of cancellations. We don't have bus drivers. What are some of the issues there that we can find solutions for? Go ahead, Peter.
Privatize OC Transport, let someone else come up with solutions what the city is lacking. We just billions of dollars on an LRT system that no one's using. It's possible that the LRT system from the train manufacturer is the problem to the train that keeps breaking down. We have going into electric buses. Electric buses, regenerative braking. We had hybrid buses with electric, with regenerative braking. It did not work. We burned more diesel. Now we're going to electric buses that have less range. We're still used with the regenerative braking system that does not work. We're going with maybe a possible high-speed bus lane going down baseline with about 10 to 15 buildings going up with that area.
Okay, well, we'll stop there and we'll open it up to everybody. Go ahead.
After what's just happened with the LRT, which was a private contract offered to a consortium that has left us high and dry, I am not looking to privatize OC Transpo one bit. We are hearing too many stories of whether it's LRT breakdowns or canceled bus routes that are causing people to be late for work, late for medical appointments, late for school. If elected, I promise to make reliability of OC Transpo and especially buses a top priority. That means getting to the bottom of what's wrong with LRT, and that might mean possibly breaking our 30-year maintenance contract with LRT.
Hundreds of millions
it
of dollars in
absolutely also
fines.
means
We're gonna
hiring
lose our
more
shirt.
bus drivers. It means hiring more bus drivers. And finally, it means modernizing our bus routes so that we're focused not only on getting people to and from work, but getting them around their communities, because right now, OC Transpo is focused on an antiquated model.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Anyone? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
James, Michael?
Sean, I agree. So we need to figure out how to make OC Transpo more efficient. How many nights have I been out walking the dog and I've seen at 8 o'clock at night empty buses going by? How many people have called me saying the bus hasn't come by? I also teach at Algonquin. I've got a lot of students that show up and they're like, sorry, I'm late. The bus just never showed up. So the thing is again, we're in a situation where council's going to be new, or half of council could be new. We're going to have to walk in, we're going to have to meet with OC Transpo, we're going to have to meet with the infrastructure parts of the city.
There's only 35 to 40% of people using transit.
I understand.
The model's all broken. We're in a hybrid system for the federal government. It's not going back anytime soon.
I understand.
Downtown is decimated. People are waiting for the jobs to come back. They're not coming back. We've got to move on.
We still have to take a look and figure out what's wrong with the system to fix it.
Privatize it. Let someone invest their money, not our money, into it, so we'll save taxpayers' money.
Okay, you'll have a chance at the end. Go ahead, Peter. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I say no to LRT Phase 3. I say we put it off for at least this term of council. There's no reason. The transit numbers are down. We couldn't have foreseen COVID, but it's changed the transit reality. I'm glad you brought up the bus. Used to be award-winning bus service. It's first I've heard it in a long time. Every year they would say, again, best in North America. I think we should get back to that. I say I cut back on the LRT as far as the Phase 3. And guess what? The largest operating expense of buses, we all know, is drivers. And guess what technology is already available? Driverless vehicles. I foresee within very short time, maybe not on Bank Street, but on the transit ways, it only makes sense. Smaller buses with no driver.
Thank you, Peter. Go ahead, Myles.
First off, I would put a pause on Phase 3 of LRT until we figure out what's gone wrong with LRT 1. We would complete the project in hand. Then I would look at the bus system. We have buses that take people where they don't want to go. It's time we created a bus system that took people where they want to go. The local buses do not work. You cannot get your child to work on a Sunday. You cannot get your senior mother or father to church on Sunday. The buses just don't work. To get riders into the buses, we need a system that takes people where they want to go, not where City Council and OC Transport wants them to go.
Go ahead, Joseph.
So I agree that we need to hit the pause button on LRT. And quite frankly, LRT was a big mistake to start with because it's rail. And the thing about rail is it's permanent and it's not adjustable to meet the changing demands of workers and changing patterns in transit. And we had an award-winning bus system. But, you know, it's not the city's responsibility to increase bus ridership. People will use the bus or they won't. Yes, we want to adjust routes to make it more convenient, but the thing about public transit and buses is this: it's inherently inconvenient, uncomfortable, and inefficient. That's what public transit is. And we don't have a responsibility to fix the ridership, okay? Make it available to the people who want, and let people drive their cars when they want to drive
Go
their
ahead,
cars.
James.
Okay, I'd like to remind everybody, think back to when they were voting on phase 2 of the LRT. Phase 1 was a complete disaster. Everyone was saying, let's wait, let's talk about phase 2. And they pushed it through before we could do any public consultation on it. Well, guess what's coming in January? The funding for the provincial and federal government is expiring. We're going to be having a vote on phase 3 of the LRT late January, early February. I propose that we put a hold on that until we complete phase 1 and 2, analyze what we did wrong, learn from our mistakes, put our best foot forward for phase 3. Also, since COVID has hit, we need to reanalyze whereabouts we want to see LRT.
Yep.
We need to develop to all these people that are working from home.
Okay, thank you, James. Michael, and then Sean.
I'll be really brief, Sean. The other thing, too, that I think we have to focus on is not just transit as a whole. It's the accessibility for people that need accessible transit in our city. Our population is aging. I think paratranspo needs a review as well, too, so that we can make sure that everybody that needs public transportation and wants to use public transportation in our city has options. And we saw what happened to our friend Mike Lifshitz, where he was stranded downtown. So, I think we have to focus on transit for everyone, and especially those that need the accessible services.
Go ahead, Sean.
I think for the next term of council, fixing transit is going to be probably one of the biggest headaches we have to address, and I think it's going to take all of our best minds on it. I was talking to a councillor the other day who was saying that OC Transpo is bleeding money because people are just giving up on it. And the population of Ottawa is growing, and for Ottawa to reach its potential, we have to fix transit. And I disagree with what Mr. Benamy said, where he said that it's not the city's responsibility to get people on transit. I fully disagree. I think it is the city's responsibility for two reasons. One, the best cities in the world have the best transit, and we can make that happen. And two, it is our largest single infrastructure investment ever.
And
for us to get
Privatize it.
and for us to get
I'd like to
return
stay-
on our
Privatize
investment.
OC
Hold on,
Transpo.
you'll have a chance to wrap.
For us to get investment, value
Okay,
back on our investment.
sorry guys, that's end of time. Peter Anthony, you have 30 seconds here.
It's time to privatize OC Transpo. Let's keep our money and let the private companies invest their own money in their own cash. If the mistake happens, it's their fault. They'll lose their money, not our money. We already lost billions of dollars on OC Transpo. Now we're going to all electric busing without doing a proper test. It happened just like LRT. It's time to rethink how we fund Transpo. It's time to privatize. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, over to Peter Westaway. You'll have 45 seconds to open this up. I'm going to continue talking a little bit about infrastructure because residents in your ward, what I hear from them is the state of the roads. The worst of the roads that are in the worst condition don't get prioritized. They're not scheduled around other infrastructure. It's completely frustrating. How do we fix this issue? Peter, you have 45 seconds to open up.
Personally, I don't really see as much a problem. I said I drove taxi for many years. I was delivery driver. I've been driving around here for 40, 50 years, whatever. And frankly, we're in a really bad city for potholes. They're always going to be an issue. We know the city's running around trying to fill them. I'm sorry, it's every spring, it's pothole season. It's been the same for years. I wish they would come up with better technology, but as far as strictly the potholes, I don't feel bad. You got to watch for them and go around them. And so they're going to hopefully keep working hard at it. But sorry, I don't feel bad for somebody who goes into a pothole. You got to go around it. It's just part of our
I'll throw
city.
active transportation into this discussion as well because that's a big part of it. Go ahead, open up to everyone.
Well, I think infrastructure is an important issue for any city, and I'll admit, I am hearing a lot of people talking about the state of their roads and wondering what their taxes are doing if their roads are never being maintained. And sometimes it's worse than just a pothole. It's roads that are in such bad shape that people are driving through little oceans just to get to the corner. Another thing I'm concerned about is the state of our sewers in the city. There are many very old parts of Ward 9 that the sewers have not been properly maintained for decades and decades, and the city has to send a truck to clear out the sewer every 4 months. It's one thing to fix a pothole, that's a small capital investment, but when you have to take care of an entire sewer line because there's just not enough good maintenance, that's a really, really big serious thing, and the city has to look at it now sooner than later, because if we wait too long, it's going to be devastating.
So it's nice to hear what the problems are. It's better to have a plan. One way that we can help with our roads is try and encourage people to get onto the LRT and use transit. Some things that we're missing, we don't have very many park and rides for our buses or our LRT. We need to build a whole lot more park and rides. We need a park and ride for our bicycles and for people walking. There was a person who used to park at Andrew Hayden Park and bicycle downtown. He was getting tickets. Let's build these park and rides for our bicycles. And also, as far as resurfacing the roads, why isn't this a city department where we have our own employees that are much more accountable? Resurfacing is less complicated than building a whole road from scratch. Let's get some city staff working on short spans of roads and resurfacing.
Look, the number one problem here is prioritization. We have a budget of over $5 billion and we spend 11% of that on road maintenance, and that includes plowing in the wintertime. There's a lot of money that we could, by looking at the budget, we can spend more money on road maintenance. What's missing here are councillors who have their priorities straight and that focus on core services instead of all kinds of other mega legacy projects. So that's the solution. And we don't need a plan. We're not going to come up with a plan here, gentlemen, okay? But we have to have the will, the political will, to push forward on having our roads fixed.
So what new technology can we buy that's out there right now to improve our road safety? There has to be something. There has to be better roads.
It's not a question of road safety. I mean, first of all, are we even constructing roads the way that we used to in terms of the base of the roads, in terms of the quality of the asphalt? The answer to that question is no. And then for everybody that wants these posts in the road, okay, what you don't seem to understand is that when you drill through that asphalt, okay, you create a hole and the water seeps through that in the wintertime. That's causing road deterioration as well. So, you know, what we're doing is we're cutting off our nose to spite our face in so many of these things.
Myles, do you want to get in here?
Yeah, I think it's time we got proactive instead of reactive. Right now, we fix the roads when they're broken. I think we should have a proper maintenance schedule to do it. In front of my house, there's been 3 sinkholes in the last 5 years. They come, they fill in a little hole with 10 or 12 city employees, and they walk away. Another year later, they're back again, 2 feet down from the road to do the same thing. They're repaving Majestic right now. They've been repaving 4 blocks of Majestic.
So do you have a water main causing the hole?
For a whole month.
No, it's
Michael, you want to get in here?
Yeah, sure. I just want to add quickly that the infrastructure has to be looked at. We have to look at the roads, and if we just can't just look at the roads as well too. You know, when the cyclists are going by us on the roads, and if I'm nervous driving the car, they have to be very nervous going by. And so we have to be able to provide infrastructure for the cycling community in our city, for people to be able to cross the street safely, for people. Sean, I think you were in Merivale Gardens, and I don't know when the last time I was trying to turn left out of Van heading south onto Woodruff, but we have to look at all of the things to promote safety, but at the same time, somebody was saying potholes, just avoid them. Sometimes we can't. And, you know, it was nice to hear that Craig Henry Drive is getting some road work done. I was just in Amberwood yesterday. They're getting some road work done. And I think it's important that everybody in the community can reach out to any one of us, whoever it is, and say, I need some help here with my street, with my cycling path, and we're there to represent them and to help them.
So Mr. Benamy was saying earlier that he thinks that what we should have is politicians and candidates that have their priorities straight. And I completely agree with him. And I think that one of my priorities, and I think that I have the experience to help address this, is getting close with communities to find out what their needs are, where the danger areas are, where are the community concerns, and address them.
Everyone here can do
and
that.
So, well, everybody here can do it, but everybody here has done it. I've been the president of a community association for a long time. And when you have that role, what you get to know is you get to know your community, you get to know how to identify areas of concern and how to address them. And I think that's fantastic training for being a city councilor. And what I want to do, if elected, is spend the first 6 months of my term meeting with leaders throughout every community to try to find out what are the needs and how can we address them together. And I have that experience.
Okay, go ahead, Joseph.
That doesn't address the fundamental problem that we're not going to solve by consulting with community associations or residents of the ward, which I'm not against
So
doing.
you're saying
Obviously,
you don't want to consult with community
come on,
associations?
Sean, that's not what I said, and you know it.
Okay,
Okay, that's not what I said, and you know it, Sean. Okay, it's the problem is this. There's an engineering problem here. Okay. And consulting with community associations is part of the process and understanding where their concerns are, but you also have to have an understanding of the lack of engineering, of sound engineering that we've adopted largely to save money in the short term in our road and that kind of infrastructure. So what we have to do is we need councillors, not just with their priorities straight, but who actually know a little bit about some of the stuff that we're talking about here today on an engineering level.
Okay, you know what? Let's stop it there because there's only a few seconds left. Peter Westaway, you have 30 seconds to wrap up here.
As far as our infrastructure, I think it should be a priority coming up. Interest rates, as we know, are going to continue, or probably going to continue to rise. I agree with Joseph that these legacy projects should be put off. Priority should be shoring up our infrastructure, whether it's the roads and the sewers. And the funds should be found, and they should just get better at building our foundation.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Joseph, we start with you with this one again. You'll have 45 seconds to open up. You know, intensification is a big thing. That means, unfortunately, sometimes you're losing green space. Climate change and the environment seems to be one of the biggest topics that everybody is talking about in this campaign. Can and should the city play a role in combating climate change, and how do we do that? Go ahead, Joseph.
Okay, so that's a great question, Derick. Thank you for that. Look, setting aside the high cost, $60 billion of the current climate change master plan and its viability and ultimately its effectiveness, the truth is that the simple truth is that this is not the responsibility of the city. We have a federal government that has a whole department dedicated to coming up with policy in order to combat climate change, okay? Why do we want to replicate all of that at the city level? I'm not saying that we should climate change isn't a problem, and I'm not saying that we should not be dealing with climate change. I'm saying that it's not the city's responsibility to make that its top priority. We have government already paying attention to it. It's not the job of the municipality.
Thank you, Joseph.
And it's not
you'll
the
be able
job,
to
it's not the
jump back in
responsibility
here.
of taxpayers.
You'll be able to jump back in. It's open to everybody.
Actually, I do believe that cities have a very important role to play in climate change because cities are the greatest contributors to the causes of climate change. It's mass population areas like cities, and Mr. Ben-Ami, I really don't think you are rising to the occasion in addressing what is probably the most pressing issue that our society is facing. Climate change, we need bold action now so that our children can have a livable solution tomorrow. So I think we need a really serious plan for this. If elected, what I want to do is I want to protect our green space, including planting a lot more trees. I do want to make it easier. What is planting trees going to do?
What's going to do? We can plant a million trees. What's that going to do?
I'll tell you.
City is cleared out of whole forest building LRT.
No, not clearing out a forest, Peter.
We just cleared one out.
If you ask the question, sir, let me answer the question. Planting trees is going to lower the temperature in our cities. You lower the temperature, you help address climate change. There's other things that I want to do.
Trying to just doubling down on coal and putting all out.
We have a marvelous opportunity. We have a marvelous opportunity to look at new ways of how we can handle waste in the city. Rather than build a whole new trail.
Instead of the green bin that's costing us money.
Okay, go ahead, Joseph, quickly, and then I want to get everyone in here. Go ahead quickly.
Sorry?
I said go ahead quickly because I want everyone to get in.
Sean, I like the idea of planting trees. But that's not what the plan is talking about. The plan is to construct 710 wind turbines in city limits, all 30 stories tall. The plan as it exists now is to construct 36 square kilometers of solar panels, okay? $60 billion.
Okay, Joseph, you're going to have a chance to wrap up here. So
These
let me just
are
go to
good
Myles here. I want to get everyone in. Go ahead, Myles.
I think the climate situation has to be tackled by the city. We're the biggest contributors, like John said. We have to be able to do better with our recycling. We have to build energy efficient homes with reused materials. We have to give back to the climate, because if we don't take care of the climate, it's not going to take care of us. So we need the trees, we need to recycle better, we need to do better with our hazardous waste, especially in Ward 9 where we have very few depots to get rid of the stuff. It goes directly to the dump.
So Myles, let me ask you a quick question. Do you have gas heat in your house or electric heat?
Gas.
So if climate change is such a problem for you, why aren't you spending money, your money, changing to
Anyone
switching
else
to
want to get in
electricity?
here? Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just asking for 30 seconds to go through my list of solutions. First off, green space is critical for our health. Nobody's going to argue about that. I'd like to increase our parks with more splash pads and more washrooms. Get some solar-powered lights in our dog parks. Get some more solar-powered splash pads. Plant more trees in the neighborhoods that have been hit in recent storms, like Pine Glen, Trend Arlington, Craig Henry, a few others. Park and rides for our bicycles and for people to walk. We build park and rides. People are going to use their bicycles more. Let's use park and rides close to our LRTs. We have one on Corkstown, not a single park and ride. More Central Park type parks where we have ponds and trees and bike paths, somewhere for people to go. Focus on
Okay, James, I
completing
think
the
that's a
LRT.
good 30. Peter Westaway, do you want to jump in?
Sure, I'll jump in. Climate change is a real problem. In the past, the city has announced target rates for their carbon emissions, and then they have done nothing to announce any program initiative to accomplish that. I'm all for, Mark Sutcliffe is mentioning he wants all the buildings retrofitted. I think that's a natural. I'm huge on planting trees. My other Peter here is quite wrong. Planting trees, reforesting our world's forest is huge. We all know that the trees create oxygen.
Okay,
Simple
let's
as
come
that.
over to Michael, and then we'll jump around a little bit more. Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks, Derick. So when it comes to climate change is real, and it's been going on for a while, and we have to deal with it. I understand some people say that it's not the city's problem because the federal government, the provincial government are looking at it, but any situation with any winning team or winning any situation, everybody has to be unified. We need people at the city that understand what's happening and proposing things, working with the provincial government, working with the federal government, because if we are going to solve this problem, it can't be just left to one organization. We have to be a team working together. I think planting trees, absolutely, we need to get on this. People have to drive down Woodruff and see what happened during the Derecho. You know, the tornado hit my dad's house in 2018 and caused $50,000 worth of damage. This is going to continue, but we all have to work together in order to solve climate change, or at least reduce climate change and the impact it's going to have on all
go
of us.
ahead, Sean.
I agree. I think we have to rise to the occasion, and I don't think all of us are rising to the occasion. Mr. Benamy, there is a website on your video where you mockingly say that, of course, climate change exists because we used to live under a glacier. I think that's taking the issue not seriously at all, sir. I don't believe that you believe in human-caused climate change.
We have to
and that is
adjust
not
to
a
the
responsible position to have if you're seeking public office today.
Okay, Peter Anthony, go ahead if you want to jump in here.
We have to adjust to the climate. For new houses, we have to build new houses that can withstand storms. Plain and simple. We've got to build a lot more houses. We can't just rely on condominiums going up cheap. What do they offer? Or they're solar panels, or they're better insulated, or they're just cheap condos going up.
Okay,
Piece
go
of
ahead.
concrete.
Thank you.
A few
Go ahead,
more
James,
things on
quickly.
my list. Multi-use pathways, bicycle walk, park and rides. I was very disappointed to see Plasco not make it. I would really like to investigate in new more waste to energy initiatives and see if we can actually use our waste to energy. We need to make walking and cycling much more safe. There's kids that are crossing busy highways like at Merivale and Pine Glen. We need to initiate to make this all safer for everybody. Work from home is a great way. Let's see how the city can build around that to encourage that.
Okay, thanks, James. Let's wrap it up there. We only got a couple of seconds. Back to you, Joseph, for a wrap up of 30.
Right. This is not about fighting climate change. This is not a debate about whether or not climate change is real or caused by human activity. This is a debate about what we, our city government, is going to impose on city taxpayers. 710 wind turbines, all 30 stories tall. I hear lots of people talking about we have to fight climate change, but at some point in time, you have to deal with where the rubber meets the road. Where are we going to put those wind turbines, and how are we going to pay for them?
Okay,
There is
sorry,
no plan
Joseph,
for that.
that's it. We've run out of time. That's it, the end of our debate. Thank you so much, gentlemen. That was a rousing debate. I appreciate all of your opinions. It's now time for our closing statements, and we'll do that in reverse order, as I said at the top of the show. And Myles, we start with you. You have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
I wish to thank Derick and Rogers for hosting this debate. I wish to thank my fellow candidates for being here and expressing their views. But most importantly, I wish to thank the residents of Ward 9 for taking time out of their busy schedules to watch this. I've tried over the last hour to let you know where I stand on the key issues facing our ward and the city at large. However, there is not enough time in the debate to fully deal with all the issues. I ask you to take the time to review my 5 pillars, my platform. Reach out to me at my website, Myles Egli for ward9.ca. This is a very important election. I will continue to knock on the doors and go to community events to meet you. As I said, this community is part of me and I am part of it. I am doing this to give back to a community that has given so much to me and my family. On Monday, October 24th, I am asking for your support so I can successfully complete my job interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Myles. Over to you, Sean, for 60 seconds.
Thank you for listening today. My team and I have listened to thousands of residents across Ward 9, and what I've heard on the doorsteps is that people want a councillor they can count on. I promise you that when things go wrong, I will be there to support you and your community. If you have a concern, big or small, I'll reply to your email, I'll return your call. That's what the people of Ward 9 have grown to expect, that's what you deserve, and that's what you will get with me as your councillor. Our city is facing some big problems. It's going to require councillors that can work together to get the job done. I have proven myself as a collaborator who can get different people working side by side on a common goal. Ottawa needs that kind of leadership. On day one, I will be ready to work with residents across Ward 9 so that together we can build stronger communities and a better city. On October 24th, vote Sean Devine for Ward 9. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. Over to you, Joseph, for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Derick. And let me apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for my stumbling in my opening statement. It's not usual for me, but it happened. I'm a family man. I was born and raised in Ottawa, and I've lived most of my adult life here for 30 years in the ward that I hope to represent. My wife and I have 4 children, all grown, and 7 grandchildren. I'm not a career politician. I'm not a career politician. I don't aspire to higher office, and I don't need the job to bolster my other business interests. My interest is solely helping get our city back on track. I know the ups and downs of running a private business, but I also understand government and public finance and how to get things done both in the private and public sectors. Finally, call me old-fashioned, but I believe that the role of elected officials in a free society is to serve people, not rule over them. All of this is to say that I won't be bought, bullied, or bamboozled by staff, the mayor, or anyone else. I will be a strong, independent voice for taxpayers.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you very much. Peter Westaway, you have 60 seconds for your closing.
Thank you. If you are still tuning into this debate, it means that you care. And that is all that matters. We care, and that is why we are all here. But elect me as your city councillor, and I will bring great energy, vision, and passion that you have rarely seen before. I want to make the world a better place for all of us. I see us all as equals, no matter your age, your color, your gender, or your net worth. None of us are perfect, but we are all in this together. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you. Peter Anthony, you have 60 seconds.
We need to privatize OC Transpo. It's time to let someone else take the risk, not city taxpayers. We're already in the hook by hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits. And it's never going to get any better than that. We need to put speed bumps through the neighborhood. Sidewalks. We need better improvement in snow removal. We need maybe rent out a piece of land off the federal government for community gardens. We need less red light cameras. Maybe we take the funding from that to help fund safety throughout the wards. Maybe give back to the wards from the red light cameras and speed cameras, and then for better community centers. Okay, that's it.
Okay, yeah, you don't have to use all the time. Over to you, James. You have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
As I've said, I've grown up in the neighborhood. I still live there. I've been volunteering for the last 17 years at Quality Living Housing Cooperative, which is a $1 million a year corporation. In that time, we've paid off our debt, did all kinds of infrastructure projects, debt-free. Now, on the subject of debt, City of Ottawa in 2010 had a $700 million debt. We now are at $3 billion. They've more than quadrupled our debt in 12 short years. We're spending $240 million a year just to service that debt. I'm saying if there any votes come forward for me to vote on increasing our debt, I'm completely against that. I'm running on fiscal responsibility. I have proven leadership in the community and on fiscal responsibility. Go to votejamesdean.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Michael, over to you. You have 60 seconds for your closing.
Thank you very much, Derick. Over the last 2.5 years, life has been upside down for all of us with the pandemic and so many other things happening. And the nice thing about it is that I got into government relations, and I was able to prove to myself that if you have the right people in power, that they're willing to help. And that's exactly the only reason why I chose to run for City Council. I want to be there to help you with all of the challenges that you and your family are going to face in the community as we move forward. And I'd like to wish good luck to everybody running for Ward 9 here with me right now. Whoever's elected in will do a great job. And I just want to thank you, Derick, for hosting this. And if people are interested, they can visit me online at michaelwoodottawa.com.
All right, excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your passionate debate today. Really appreciate your time. Of course, appreciate your time campaigning. I know there's a lot left to go, so good luck to all of you. And thank you, of course, for you watching at home. If you want to find out about more debates, you can head over to our website and our YouTube channel. RogersTV.com is the website. Don't forget, October 24th is Election Day. Thanks for watching this edition of The Local Campaign.